Host Stephen Bartlett introduces his guest, Dr. Peter Attia, a world-renowned physician who's made a name for himself in the realms of performance and longevity. The conversation starts with Dr. Attia's mission objective, which reflects his desire for universal health accessibility beyond mere physical aspects. This realization emerged from his fascination for performance fitness and a personal moment of revelation when his daughter was born, which brought about his own mortality's awareness and his family's history of premature death from heart disease. The concept of Medicine 3.0 is introduced as a new way of medical understanding and practice, following the preceding Medicine 1.0 and 2.0. He defines Medicine 1.0 as the time before the scientific understanding of illness and Medicine 2.0 as the era where life expectancy has dramatically increased due to advances in controlling communicable diseases. However, these earlier versions have shown negligible progress against slow death causes such as cardiovascular disease, dementia, and others. This prompts the requirement for Medicine 3.0, which focuses on early prevention and a personalized approach to treatment. They touch on Medicine 3.0's four major pillars: prevention, unique treatment and honest assessment, and acceptance of risk, which illustrate how a doctor should think about risks in any medical decision. Drawing on his wealth of experience, Dr. Attia discusses the common habit of assessing health risks within short-term windows, emphasizing that such a narrow view often leads to missed opportunities for beneficial intervention. Peter provides a clear example of this issue, discussing heart disease risk. The common practice, Peter explains, is to view the risk of heart disease within a 10-year time span, ignoring the likelihood of diseases manifesting beyond this range. He further illustrates this point by hypothesizing about the host, Stephen Bartlett. He asserts that while Stephen, being 30 years old, has a low 10-year risk of heart disease, however, tests could potentially reveal biomarkers suggesting a high risk of heart disease in the long run. He emphasizes the importance of looking at health risks across a lifetime, taking into account the long-term effects of doing nothing. Stephen reflects on his own approach towards health, admitting that he planned to start worrying about preventing diseases later in life. Dr. Attia suggests that while this apathy towards preventative health in the early life stages is understandable, individuals who are towards the end of their lives usually regret not paying more attention to their health earlier. Dr. Attia draws parallels between health prevention and financial planning, asserting that both benefit significantly from early intervention. However, he acknowledges the human tendency to enjoy the present rather than fretting about the future. He stresses that many health issues like cardiovascular disease begin silently from birth and only manifest later in life. The host divulges a personal revelation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Witnessing the stark correlation between obesity, poor metabolic health, and mortality, he felt impelled to improve his own metabolic health. Peter Attia delves into complex aspects of longevity, discussing its relationship with cognitive function, physical health, and emotional health. Attia outlines that longevity is bifurcated into two elements: lifespan and health span. Lifespan denotes the length of life, while health span refers to the quality of life, which Attia identifies as being dependent upon cognitive function, that is, processing speed, executive function, memory, physical health, that is, strength, endurance, pain-free, and emotional health, that is, state of relationships, joy, sense of purpose, emotional regulation. For Attia, his insights into the significance of emotional health arising from personal experience acts as a fascinating anecdote. Attia confesses that a keen focus on physical health and career led him to neglect his emotional well-being. Importantly, he was led to this realization by a therapist who juxtaposed his diligent efforts towards extending life to his concurrent individual unhappiness. Such a revelation led Attia to confront his damaging behaviors like detachment, anger, workaholism, and selfishness. These self-reflections revealed a contrast between his professional success and personal value. This was further exemplified by his experience at a funeral, where he noted the eulogy focused more on the qualities of the deceased as a person rather than accolades of the career, underlining the importance of prioritizing emotional well-being and relationships over professional success. Attia discusses the role of traumatic experiences in lifelong health issues, which can give rise to harmful behavior patterns such as addictions, anger, and codependencies. People adapt to traumas in different ways, often creating maladaptive behaviors that can manifest later in life. While emotional health is a key theme here, Attia also touches on self-analysis as a means to understand and rectify detrimental behavioral patterns. In his case, he had to seek therapy to break through his behavioral issues, which included 2 rounds of intense residential trauma therapy. Through therapy, Attia understood the need to separate his actions from his identity, a message he finally brings to his audience. Peter Attia discusses his journey with mental health that ultimately led him to self-improvement and a better understanding of himself. He discusses the importance of self-awareness and self-management for achieving a healthier emotional state. Attia shares an intense period of inpatient treatment he attended not by his personal choice but due to marital issues. He likens therapy to rehab, the process of healing an injury, and then learning to strengthen it to avoid future damage. His marriage acted as a catalyst for him to learn tools for managing his behavior and emotions. Describing this process as an ultimatum, Attia credits it for saving his life. He was in a cycle of self-loathing and shame, which was manifested as a destructive narrative about being defective and irremediable. This emotional turmoil was putting his life at risk. After attending therapy, Attia discovered the root cause of his negative internal narrative and was able to eliminate it. To combat his internal critic, he would record himself on his phone, providing soothing and understanding acknowledgement of his thoughts and feelings, mimicking the type of comforting speech he would give to a close friend. After 4 months, his critical internal voice disappeared. The changes also improved his relationships as a father, husband, boss, and friend. He feels sadness and regret about not understanding his emotional health earlier in life and believes it caused unnecessary pain to those around him. Attia encourages others, especially younger individuals, to focus on their emotional health before starting a family. He emphasizes that maladaptive behaviors often develop in response to personal experiences, and it is essential to recognize and address them. Attia stresses the importance of emotional health and the detrimental effects it can have if neglected. He reveals how therapy played a crucial role in altering his negative narrative, thus broadly transforming his relationships and overall well-being. To the host, Stephen Bartlett, Attia's story provided newfound understanding of self-sabotage and the power of emotional health in determining the overall quality of one's life. They both agreed that the body employs certain maladaptive behaviors to protect itself from further harm, reinforcing the need for emotional healing. This portion of the Diary of a CEO podcast features Dr. Peter Attia discussing the importance of exercise, sleep, and nutrition. Here, Stephen Bartlett and Peter delve into 5 essential aspects, or as Peter calls them, tools of living a healthy and longevity-focused lifestyle. These tools include diagnosis, exercise, nutrition, sleep, and molecules, drugs, hormones, supplements. Peter is critical of the contemporary medical field, or Medicine 2.0, especially when it comes to the paucity of solid guidance provided to patients about physical workouts, explaining that far more emphasis needs to be placed on individualized exercise plans. He also addresses nutrition and sleep, arguing that these crucial components of well-being are given inadequate attention during medical training and that this lack carries over into advice given to patients. In terms of molecules, drugs, hormones, and supplements, Dr. Attia recognizes that traditional medicine does teach about the pharmacologic aspect. Still, it falls short on understanding supplements and hormones, thus limiting its efficacy, equating it to a limited tool. To validate the importance of exercise, Attia utilizes technical terms like hazard ratio. He explains this concept by stating a hazard ratio is a number if that number is 1.5. It means that there's a 50% increase in the risk of death for one group versus the other. He explores the hazard ratios associated with several health conditions and habits such as smoking, diabetes, and high blood pressure. Critical to Attia's argument is highlighting the correlation between physical strength, muscle mass, VO2 max, a measure of cardiovascular fitness, and the associated hazard ratios. He reveals that the top 15 to 20% of 50-year-olds in terms of strength or muscle mass had a hazard ratio of approximately 3, which indicates a 200% higher survival rate compared to the weaker group. Additionally, high levels of VO2 max also relate to a roughly 3.5 hazard ratio, indicating significantly lower mortality rates. Through an in-depth breakdown of VO2 max and a strenuous exercise performance, Peter underlines the connection between exercise and longevity. In this section of the podcast, the hosts Stephen Bartlett and guest Peter Attia engage in a multi-level discussion about the profound importance of exercise, strength, and muscle mass for longevity and overall health. They explore the significance of these factors, the dangers of a sedentary lifestyle, and practical recommendations for incorporating regular physical activity into daily routines. Peter Attia puts heavy emphasis on exercise as the single best way to influence mortality rates, stating with certainty, nothing compares to having a high VO2 max, high muscle mass, and high muscle strength. He highlights that the disparity in all-cause mortality between the fittest 2.5% and least fit 25% underscores the power of fitness. He then goes on to detail the importance of muscle mass to glucose regulation, a vital metabolic function of the body, stating, "Muscles are where you dispose of glucose." He indicates that muscles store 80% of glucose in the body, making them an essential component of blood sugar regulation. Attia further links muscle mass and strength to protection against age-related fragility and frailty, discussing the mortality associated with falls in the elderly. Beyond this, he explains that loss of muscle mass, also known as sarcopenia, becomes a major risk factor as people enter their 7th decade of life. Addressing the belief that declining physical function with age is inevitable, Attia acknowledges, while complete reversal of aging may not be feasible at the present time, it is crucial not to accept a rapid decline. He underscores the importance of warding off muscle mass loss, specifically type 2 muscle fiber deterioration, and maintaining physical activity. In terms of practical application, Attia suggests that while optimal fitness might involve 1.5 to 2 hours of training daily, it is essential to adapt according to individual circumstances and constraints. Even going from a completely sedentary lifestyle to just 90 minutes of activity a week can reduce all-cause mortality by about 15%, demonstrating that every little bit of exercise can make a difference. He concludes this section of the discussion by highlighting the importance of convincing people not only of the reduced mortality rate, but the improved quality of life or health span from increased physical activity. Attia contends that the awareness of death's finitude typically sets in during people's 50s, and that focusing on the desired quality of life is crucial. He believes that everyone should aspire to remain physically active throughout their life. Narrating their personal experiences, Bartlett and Attia highlight moments of realization about health span. Bartlett mentions an enlightening instance where he realized his father, at 65, would be unable to descend a lengthy set of stairs for canoeing, indicating his restrictions due to age. This realization made Bartlett value his health span immensely. Next, they delve into the importance of stability, which Attia elaborates on in his book. He defines stability as the ability to transmit force from the body to the external world and vice versa without sustaining an injury. Using an elaborate car analogy from his book, Attia introduces the concept of stability and its significance. He compares the body to a race car, emphasizing the importance of optimal power delivery, efficient allocation of energy, and preventing energy leakage, similar to an injury. Discussions on injury and stability lead to Bartlett sharing about his grade 3 hamstring tear. They discuss the influence of stability on sports injuries and how muscular imbalances and weaknesses, specifically within the feet due to inappropriate footwear, can contribute to chronic injuries. Attia believes that foot inserts should be reserved for specific cases, and most people need to strengthen their foot muscles to support themselves and restore their feet's springiness. Attia and Bartlett discuss the harmful impact of comfort and convenience on health and fitness. They refer to how comfort has been engineered out of lives, which has led to numerous physical and mental health problems. Bartlett suggests that following the instruction manual of how humans were born to live can pave the way for healthier living. Peter Attia shares insights into the dichotomy of human progress. He emphasizes that although modernity provides comfort and removes certain physical hardships, it's also led to new health concerns primarily dominated by sedentary lifestyles and unhealthy diets. He contends that our ancestors didn't suffer from modern issues like obesity because they had more physically demanding jobs and weren't surrounded by calorie-dense, excessively tasty food. Attia argues the impact of such changes necessitates personal responsibility, especially in moderating food intake due to its abundance. He also observes a resurgence in discomfort as a hobby trends as a response to these comforts. Next, The pair discuss rucking, a form of exercise and hobby of Attia's, where one walks with a weighted backpack, as a testament to the growing trend in physical and discomfort-inducing activities. Rucking provides an extra layer of challenge that differs from conventional exercises. The conversation then shifts to the practice of using one's home as an Airbnb property, leveraging the potential of generating income from vacant properties, suggesting this as another facet of modernity. Returning to health topics, Bartlett inquires about sugar, asking if it's as harmful as perceived and if opting for zero sugar or diet drinks is a healthier alternative. Attia explains that while excessive sugar intake, particularly liquid forms that are rapidly metabolized, can lead to problems like fatty liver disease and insulin resistance, on a calorie-adjusted basis, sugar may not be significantly more harmful than other carbohydrates. He doesn't strongly advocate for completely avoiding sugar, but suggests moderation, particularly avoiding sugary drinks. Regarding zero sugar or diet drinks, Attia mentions their potential adverse impacts on gut health due to certain non-nutritive sweeteners. However, he advises caution due to evolving research in this area. He suggests sticking to healthier alternatives like drinking carbonated water. The conversation switches to Bartlett, mentioning that people ultimately want to lose fat rather than weight, a point that Attia agrees with. According to Attia, the biggest misconception is the belief that weight loss entirely depends on consuming fewer calories. While partially accurate, he stresses the role of exercise in improving insulin sensitivity and brain sensitivity to satiety hormones and contends that sleep deprivation and high stress also contribute to weight gain. People come on this podcast and told me that calories are like the concept. It's kind of like a lie, Bartlett says, alluding to the controversial perspective among some health enthusiasts that not all calories should be treated equally. Attia concedes that while some calories, such as celery, are not fully absorbed by the body due to their high water and insoluble fiber content, it's still largely straightforward to ascertain the amount of calories a person intakes, debunking the notion that calorie count is a lie. Attia therefore underscores that effective weight loss, or rather fat loss, requires the creation of energy deficit through three strategies: calorie restriction, CR, dietary restriction, DR, and time restriction, TR. The first approach suggests outright limiting caloric intake, though this may be challenging for some due to discipline or food preferences. The second method, DR, involves eliminating certain foods from the diet, like carbs or animal products. Attia reveals, the more restrictive you are in the diet, the less you will eat. However, he also acknowledges the cravings that accompany this approach, making it unsuitable for some individuals. The final method, TR or intermittent fasting, constrains the hours of the day during which the individual can eat. However, Bartlett shares his personal experience with the ketogenic diet, a form of DR, which emphasizes that it wasn't sustainable due to his fast-paced lifestyle, the craving for carbohydrates, and the difficulties in maintaining the diet while eating out. He also mentioned how he quickly regained the weight he had lost once he stopped the diet, highlighting the difficulty for certain people in sticking to restrictive diets in the long term. Attia finally expresses his concern about intermittent fasting by pointing out that it could lead to inadequate protein intake, noting that protein is the most pivotal macronutrient to maintain muscle mass during weight loss. The first key point to note is how they discussed the desire to maintain muscle mass while losing weight in order to avoid fat mass reduction. Bartlett mentions his habit of fasting to enhance cognitive performance, as he believes that eating before a conversation hampers his thinking ability, since the energy rushes to the gut instead. The discussion moves on to the topic of alcohol, with Attia asserting the toxicity of ethanol, the type of alcohol we drink. He suggests that while small amounts may not be appreciably toxic, higher quantities can be profoundly destructive to health. He draws attention to the existing epidemiology that suggests modest alcohol intake could have benefits, but critically questions the veracity of such literature, suspecting negative survivorship bias and flaws in the data pool. Attia highlights his personal approach towards alcohol. He only drinks when there is a solid reason and when the quality of the beverage is assured. He promotes an approach of moderating intake and avoiding alcohol close to bedtime. The conversation transitions to discuss the importance of sleep. Attia enhances the significance of sleep by viewing it through the lens of evolution, pointing out how our ancestors have followed the sleep pattern of approximately 7-8 hours. He also mentions the adverse health outcomes linked with improper sleep weight gain, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, and lower performance and mood levels. As they continue, the duo talks about hormone replacement therapy. Attia asserts that while testosterone replacement therapy is often overprescribed, responsible use can have positive effects such as benefits to body composition and insulin sensitivity. Talking about hormone replacement therapy for women, estrogen and progesterone, he believes it largely helps symptomatic women by easing menopausal symptoms and protecting against osteopenia and osteoporosis. The conversation ends with mentioning an interesting yet understudied subject: testosterone replacement therapy in women. Stephen Bartlett brings hormones in both men and women and the side effects of taking supplements and drugs to manipulate these hormones. Peter highlights that while estrogen and progesterone are the dominant hormones associated with women's sexual characteristics, testosterone is actually much more abundant, about 10 times more than estrogen. Despite this fact, it's not often discussed or acknowledged due to its lesser potency. However, he also notes its importance in various functions such as muscle mass, mood, and libido. To manage any hormonal imbalances or issues, he advises seeking help from a doctor who understands hormonal therapy, as mistakes can have serious long-term effects. A key discussion point revolves around the use of high doses of testosterone, especially in young men. Peter warns of the potential danger that if consumed in excess, a male can lose his own ability to produce testosterone and sperm, potentially impacting fertility. The conversation takes a twist as they delve into the subject of drugs used to treat hair loss, specifically a US drug known as finasteride, which blocks the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone, DHT, a more potent androgen driving hair loss. However, Stephen expresses his fear of the potential side effects of consuming these kinds of drugs and opts to let nature run its course with his receding hairline. He makes a poignant statement, questioning the real cost of these convenient solutions and expressing his concern about disturbing his body's chemical balance. To conclude, Peter's new book is commended and recommended to the listeners for gaining a more comprehensive understanding of hormonal function and health. The final stage of their talk entails an interesting question from the previous guest about the impact of AI on our lives and how one can contribute positively in an AI-dominated world. Responding, Peter suggests that his greatest impact would be on the lives of his children, as they are the ones who will truly inherit this upcoming world. The session ends with Stephen expressing his gratitude towards Peter for his insights. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of The Pod Slice.